Uh, okay. I was going to say sun's out, fun's out, but I think that saying is actually sun's out, buns out. Regardless, peace. I just wanted to share something quickly. So, when we pour libation, no, I mean, that's what I think about when I pour libation. But one of the understandings in the tradition that I practice is that the creator, creation, what we call the omniscient, all encompassing, I just love the Native American term great mystery. Or what the Native brothers said at one of the Million Family Million Man marches was the great mystery. But the understanding is that it's the easiest way to speak about it is that there's like a big circle and we are all a part of that. When we went into yoga training, we talked about how creation is this large ocean and each of us are an individual drop of that ocean, and meaning that we are made of the same thing, because H2O, whether it is a drop or a waterfall, is still H2O. It's made of the same thing. It is made up of the same thing, which means we have the capability to to do what the ocean can do. Um, that a drop of water can freeze, can evaporate, can run. You know, all of those things. And then there's also things that talk about how each of us are an expression of that universal consciousness, that universal creator. Um, so I wanted to start with that in saying this. If you have any inkling, any inspiration, any feeling like there's something wonderful you should deposit on someone else, then just do it. Um, because we really aren't separate. We really aren't separate. We are all sharing in this. We are all individual drops of the large ocean. Some of us in different places, some of us on rocks, and some in dirt, and some in the trees, and some coming out of the clouds, and whatever have you. So we are all expressions of this divine consciousness having these experiences. And so there were a couple things that hit me last week when I was sharing about my daughter being my attunement. One of the things that she said in the first class where I had to cancel because of the rain, she said, "Oh, excuse me, excuse me." She said, once we finally got to the class in the sun, she said, "Mommy, aren't you glad you canceled last week?" And I needed that. I didn't know she was going to say that, nor do I know if she knows I needed that, because I was really on myself like, why would you cancel? You promised these folks you'll be here for yoga. So, but it was so perfect because of the delay, that yes, I was very glad. And whatever was in her, the spirit, the all that was in her, that prompted her to say that to me was very helpful. I called um, a brother and sister friend of mine maybe a week ago. And I called Everything Works attached to each other. So I was standing in the kitchen with my daughter, and my daughter was asking me if I cried after my husband. My husband recently has come through an illness, something that could have been very devastating and could have taken his life, had taken the life of other people. And she asked me when Daddy was diagnosed, "Did you cry?" And I said, "No, I didn't feel like I had the space to cry." Daddy was crying. Um, Even when we told the children, I didn't want them to see me cry because they looked terrified and they were crying. And I know, like I've shared before, that my mother is dealing with dementia. And so the person I would have called for emotional support does not have the capacity to offer that to me. So I didn't have a release. I didn't have a support. And rightfully so, everyone who reached out to me was reaching out to ask how my husband was doing. So there wasn't a space for, I did have a couple. The overwhelming space was not a space for me, um, for me and my support to receive support. But when he was first diagnosed, two friends came over here And they walked in the front door and they didn't say anything to me. And all they did was hug me. And it made me cry. That's all they did. They hugged me and it made me cry. And so because she asked me that, even when I was standing there talking to my daughter about it, this is my 15-year-old, talking to her about it. And I said, what Mama and Baba did touched me. Because, you know, when somebody gets sick, people get scared. They want to tell you all their horror stories. Not appropriate. They want to tell you who died because of whatever disease. Not appropriate. So you end up doing double work. You know, if you're the person who's sick, you're trying to comfort the person who's talking to you. If you're supporting a person who's sick, now you're trying to take care of that person. And then the people who are bringing you all their scary stories. But when I was talking to my daughter about this couple, it made me cry all over again. And I called the wife of this couple to tell her how important that was to me, what she did, what she and her husband did. And they didn't rush through it. They walked in the house, they both hugged me, and they stood there and just stood there with me for a moment. And it was very significant. And then she shared a story with me. She said there was a time I had called her when she had come through something challenging. I didn't know. I was just calling her because it was on my heart to call her. How you doing? Da da da. You were on my heart. Blah blah blah. And she said at that moment she needed that because she was going through something she wasn't sharing with anyone and no one else knew. And it hit me again, just another reminder that when we're really plugged in, when we are in spaces where all the noise falls away and there's love and compassion and connection that exist, we are droplets carrying out the work of the ocean. We are a part of the whole, and we are all a part of each other, even though we have these lovely, unique bodies and experiences to move through to gain these experiences and share the wisdom that comes of them. But there really is no separation. So the next time that you are inspired to share a kind word, to share a kind action, to offer something of yourself, it costs you nothing to be kind. It costs absolutely nothing to be kind. And the return on it, not necessarily for you personally, but the return on it to the whole and for that person is so big that why not? Just be kind. Why not? Just share a kind word. Just share a loving word. Just share, just share out of the overflow of who we all are and access it. Get quiet and access it. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted. And it is blazing out here. It's picking up. I'm starting to sweat even more. So this is Reverend Okomfo, Mwalimu Yogi, Sister Mama Ade saying peace. And when the opportunity comes up to be kind, just do it. Just do it. Talk to you later.